Thank you for joining the third in our series of Join the Conversation, where we explore the different facets of the massive renewal and conservation project taking place at the Tower of David Museum. This project is preserving and upgrading the historic Citadel of Jerusalem while building new spaces and creating a new permanent exhibition for the museum. I am Caroline Shapiro, Director of International Public Relations, and I'm excited to welcome everyone today. I'd also like to introduce you to Rose Guinassar, our Director of External Relations, who has been key in curating this whole series of meetings. Rose, please speak so that we can see you. Rose?
Yes, thank you all for coming. This is very exciting for all of us. And thank you, Caroline.
It would be best if your Zoom settings were on speaker view, and we're asking you to keep your microphones on mute until the end of the presentation, but please keep your questions in mind so that we can answer them when the time comes. Today, we will be looking at the balance between conserving the past and building for the future. You have seen the plans for the renewal of the Tower of David Museum. Archaeological excavations are reimagined into additional new spaces as abandoned hidden excavations get a lease of new life. Architects Eitan Kimmel and Yotam Cohen of the international award-winning architect firm Kimmel-Eshkolot will be taking us behind the scenes and share with us the process, challenges, and surprises of renewing the museum. But we said it's all about balance. As you know, the Tower of David contains close to 3,000 years of Jerusalem's history within its walls. The last time any major conservation took place at the Citadel was over 30 years ago when the museum was inaugurated by Mayor Teddy Kollek. The conservation project taking place now is one of the largest in Israel, and we have here this evening Yotam Carmel, Director of Conservation, and he will explain the conservation process that's taking place in the Citadel and look at the challenges of conserving a heritage site while responsibly developing it for the future. And of course, Eilat Lieber, Director and Chief Curator of the museum, who is leading the whole project. Eilat, perhaps you can start by telling us about your approach to modernizing the museum while at the same time conserving and preserving the Citadel. Eilat? Eilat, you're on mute.
Thank you, Caroline, and thank you, Rose. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to the Tower of David Museum. As you might know, the Tower of David is the Museum of the History of Jerusalem, located in the ancient, beautiful citadel of the city. The citadel represents all the layers from the history of Jerusalem and became the historical symbol of the city, as you probably know. So the question is why actually we needed the renewal. It's so perfect as it is. So actually the museum was opened to the public about 30 years ago under the vision of the legendary Mayor Teddy Kollek, who wanted a special museum to the story of Jerusalem. The Citadel was never meant to be a museum. It was transformed to be a museum. And for more than 3 decades, it was a very successful museum right on the main entrance to the old city. Millions of people visited this museum, the night spectacular and the cultural activities. And after so many years and millions of people, it was about time to renew this museum and to actually try to engage the young generation with the story of Jerusalem, with the beautiful archaeology of the Citadel. So in one hand, we wanted to keep the beauty of the past, as you can see it right now, On the other hand, we needed to find the right language to the upcoming visitors of the future. And of course, we needed to renew the infrastructure, to preserve the ancient walls and towers and stones. And here you can see the main entrance, the original entrance to the citadel from the east, from inside the old city. This was built during the 16th century by the Ottomans. But right now, as you know, Jerusalem, the city, the capital of Israel, the modern capital, is in the west. And visitors, pilgrims, and tourists are coming to the old city from the west. This is Jaffa Gate, the main entrance to the old city. And we wanted to welcome them from here, from the main square of the city, the heart of Jerusalem, in between east and west. So we wanted to change the circulation and make this citadel, this museum, to the gateway to the old city. This is the key to understand Jerusalem. And after visiting the galleries and meeting with the history of Jerusalem, people will be able to visit the old city with a lot of knowledge and experience. And the key, as I said, to the history of the city. So we actually needed the best experts for this challenge. And we are lucky actually to work with the perfect team, the most, I think, talented and professional team to find the way to solve all these challenges. As you can see, we wanted to open the citadel to everyone, include everyone. We wanted to improve accessibility and to be able to use new technology to tell the story of the rich history of Jerusalem to everyone. Here you can see, okay, we will see it later.
Here we go, sorry about that. Eilat, you talked about bringing the best people to the Citadel so that we had this incredible team. And we're lucky this evening that we actually have got 3 of those members with us. It's my pleasure to introduce you to architect Eitan Kimmel. Eitan has been involved with many high-profile public projects, including the preservation and rehabilitation of the historical neighborhood of Tel Aviv, Neve Tzedek, the new expansion of the government compound in Jerusalem, the Davidson Museum in the Archaeological Park near the Western Wall, and the National Memorial at Mount Herzl, for which he and his firm received international awards from, among others, the Royal Institute of British Architects, as well as 2 awards in China, and the Didarlo and Minose International Prize from Italy. We're also joined this evening by Yotam Cohen-Sagi from Kimmel-Eshkolot Architects, who is the on-site architect designing the new building and who works closely with the archaeologists and the conservationists to make sure that the new entrance pavilion blends seamlessly with the iconic architecture of the Tower of David. And I just want to show you one thing.
Imagine the huge responsibility for an architect to come and work inside these spaces, this ancient archaeology, these walls, to do it in a way that will respect the history, will respect archaeology. It is, I would say, it has to be done with trembling hands. And we come from Tel Aviv, from this new city. And we work here in this old citadel, and it is exciting. It is a very, very challenging project for us to work very precisely in these spaces. Working in such a site within archaeology is always a back and forth ongoing process of design. It is not a new building that we design, we send the plans, and then it is being constructed and we just come and see that it is according to our plans. We get data back from the site. We understand things when it is under construction. There are new findings that need to actually modify the plan. So we keep on working. We are on our drawing tables. We're on our computers, ongoing together with the site, giving solutions to special events that happen when we dismantle something or when we have to dig. This entry pavilion, we're still very, very excited, a bit worried what will be found there once the excavations for this pavilion will be finished. So it is a process that needs us here, and this back and forth from the construction site, from the archaeology to our office and to our computers, back and forth. This is part of doing architecture within archaeology.
Well, Eitan, it's great that you're here this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. I can see you're on mute, so please unmute yourself because I'm about to ask you lots of questions. Eitan, when you first came to the Tower of David and you were tasked with this project by Eilat, how did you begin? What did you begin to do planning-wise? How did you begin to research the project?
Well, first of all, I'm very happy to be here tonight, and thank you for inviting me. And as for your question, it is a very long process of a dialogue with the site, and the site is extremely complicated, extremely vast, and many layers to it. To understand all the structure is a research, and then we need to be we're not archaeological experts, but we need to have a sort of understanding also in where we are. What is this? What do we see here? We see here Herodian time. We see here even earlier layers, periods. We see, of course, the Crusader, Middle Age. Citadel, etc. And all this has to first be analyzed before we can even start. And I thought it can be nice to, so to speak, take you into this process as you're asking, and show you how we actually start to work. And for this, we have nowadays pretty much science fiction tools to work. And if I can share the screen with Yotam, I will show you this way of actually scanning the every stone on site. And then once we have this scan, this laser point cloud that creates the spaces, we can really have every stone of the Citadel in our computer. So it is sort of a 3D virtual model that is our tool to go on working. So I thought to show you how this works, how this data comes to life, and then how it becomes a model, and then how it becomes in reality the construction. So is it okay if I take the screen and show you?
That would be fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay, so Yotam, can you why is that not coming? Can I share the screen? Well,
Dharma, do we have a screen share here?
Yeah.
Try to share the screen.
There we go. There we go. So what we have here, once the screen will light up, is this tool to work in archaeological sites that we it is a sort of let's say in a sort of a work that we are experienced in. We've done it before, but this kind of tool brings it to a different level. So here you see the model. If it will come up, there's a bit heavy. Yotam, shall I go on or?
What we can see here from above, or at least I can see, is a fabulous aerial view of the Citadel.
Right. So I hope this can move. I hope we can show you that how this is a 3D model that can actually, we can look at it from all sides and then work and show the point cloud model. So just bear with us for a second. It will work at the end. Well, let's continue with our discussion, and hopefully the screen will follow us. So it is, as you asked, it is first of all a big research, then a dialogue, and not to forget a dialogue with the museum leaders, which is a very let's say a special opportunity for us to have a dialogue with a cultural high dialogue with Eilat, with all the leaders of the museum, to understand how this museum has to be done. And here I see on my screen, I hope you can see it as well, the point cloud as it comes. It is a scan of the whole Citadel. Every stone is on our computer. If we look at one image of this area, we could understand how detailed this tool is, and then well.
Eitan, I must say it looks like a piece of modern art.
It is. It looks like a very beautiful picture. So let's say once it comes, you will see it and understand this tool. Then we make a model out of it, and we can walk around it and understand together with our clients, with the museum people. We could take decisions, understand how this has to be done. I was hoping the technology faster. Let's forget about this the demonstration and keep on our discussion and our talk. I'm sorry.
It is amazing. I know we can't see it, but I had a little preview of this modern art yesterday. And basically, when you're looking at all those points, what Eitan and Yotam, the architects, can do is dive deep into the Citadel and get all sorts of information, as Eitan said, on every single stone that there is. In fact, that's exactly what we're looking at now, isn't it, Eitan?
I hope so. My screen is white. I don't know what it's sort of lagging behind. I'm not sure, but it is quite amazing. This tool.
Can I ask you some questions about how? So you told us that you basically scanned the Citadel and were able to create these images that give you all this information. When you're coming to build in a museum, well, not in a museum, in an ancient site that has got these incredible Jerusalem stones, what are you taking into consideration when it comes to materials that you're building in? I'd love to know more about that. And also, I'm going to ask you sustainability. You know, everyone's much more aware now of working in a more sustainable way. And I'd love to know more about your approach to that as well. So if you could tell me a little bit more about the materials you're using and your approach in building, that would be great.
So now I see the point cloud, but let's go on. And I will say that we have one rule of the house is that if we come with a material to an old structure, we do not want it to look old. We want it to be very clear that it is an intervention of the 21st century. So we find new materials that work very nicely in composition with the old stone. We try to use concrete polished floors. We use black metal. We use these materials that make the let's say the dialogue between the intervention, the new and the old, very, very interesting. And it is in other senses, it is the secret of being unseen, actually. So we don't want to. Some of the galleries, we've been there. We've put all the technology it needs, but you don't see we've been there. It's back to how it was, because it's all under the floor. It is a very sophisticated system. I don't know if you see the screen now, but here we have testing of concrete floors that we try to introduce into the galleries to find the right color, the right texture. Quite a few of these test mock-ups were done until we chose the right material. Or here you see this idea of working with black metal, which is definitely an intervention of our times, together with the old stone, and it's always it works. It is the old and the new that always is a success. So we show you here a little bit of our ideas of materials. And you were asking about sustainability, and it is also has to do with materials. We are fortunate to be in a piece of architecture that's actually extremely sustainable, because it was built in times where the walls are 2 meters thick, sometimes more, stone. It has a thermal mass that creates a cool temperature in the daytime, in the hot summer days of Jerusalem. It creates a sort of a protective warm temperature in the winter. So we're actually enjoying a sustainable architecture as it is, but we bring in new systems. We have to bring in heating and cooling systems, because there's a lot of technology that comes into the galleries. And for this, we found systems that are extremely energy sufficient. For example, hardly seen in Israel, or even I don't think it ever was used in Israel. We're doing the cooling system for all the galleries. We're doing it from under the floor. So there are no machines and no grills and no air ducts. It's all a system of cooling the floor, which gives you actually the air conditioning, so to speak, of the galleries. And it is very special, and then also very beautiful, because you don't see anything.
We're going to be showing people and telling them what's underneath the floorboards.
Right.
Fantastic.
So this is about sustainability, and of course, it is a citadel. As a citadel, has very small openings. The daylight, the sunlight comes very in minimum openings. So we have it as it comes with a citadel. These cool spaces that we can use as galleries.
Thank you. I have another question for you. So the Citadel is a fortress. It was built to keep people out. It was built to be completely inaccessible. And Eilat talked about the fact that we need to make it accessible. So what does that mean, other than putting in an elevator? And I know that we here at the Tower of David have talked about putting in an elevator for many, many years. But what was the challenge there?
It is a huge challenge because, as you say, it was never meant to be accessible. And there is this this idea of keeping the citadel in its historical state, and we have to also negotiate everything with the antiquity authorities. So every lift, every elevator is a result of a discussion of maybe 3 years, maybe more, and a lot of alternatives to check if the elevator could be here or there, or inside or outside. Maybe I could show you a slide of some of our testings to position the elevator in special ways, and eventually you see the situation as it is, but of course none of it is accessible. And what we try to offer is a elevator that comes from one of it is really from inside the gallery. We'll see it in a minute, and one of it is here. You see the situation where it is still not accessible, and we made these tests. The elevator could be more to the south or more to the north. It could be detached from the walls, as you see here in this rendering. But eventually here we chose to put the elevator inside the building. We managed to convince the antiquity authorities that it will be okay to open a small vault in a half a room, half a gallery, and have this elevator popping up from within the gallery up to the upper floor. You see it here, a very small intervention that gives many people, gives old people, gives every one that has problems reaching these or climbing the stairs could visit every gallery in the museum from this as a result from this renovation. So you see here one of the elevators that we added, and another one, and it's actually already nearly on site. It's under construction. And another one is an elevator that is a freestanding one. Again, we try to make a piece of architecture from it and bring it precisely to the right position. So it gives the solution, but it also works very nicely with the old walls of the Citadel.
It will be very exciting because over the years it's been very sad when we haven't been able to take people up and give them the views of inside the courtyard of the Citadel, and they can't enjoy going around the museum. And so it is very, very exciting that this is really going to happen. We've talked a lot about the entrance, the new entrance pavilion that's going to be at the Jaffa Gate, and Yotam Cohen Sagi is with us this evening as well. He's been doing the screen, behind the screen right now. I want to put him full screen and center, and for you to just see Yotam talking about the entrance building. So one moment.
Cool.
We are standing now at what used to be the western moat of the Citadel. During the Ottoman period, it was covered with soil, and actually it ended its usage as a moat. Before our project, we had a sort of plaza here, which used to be the back entrance of the museum. In the new project, it's going to be the main entrance of the museum. There's going to be a big plaza in this entrance, and we're going to excavate a new entrance pavilion, which will have a ticket office for visitors' services, as well as some office spaces. So we're actually going to dig around 10 meters down the ground and have a new exhibition gallery for temporary exhibitions. This is our biggest engineering challenge of the project, because we need to excavate around 15 meters to drill down to the main rock. And while doing that, we need to make sure we're not losing the support for the ancient and the historical walls. When planning in such a magnificent environment, we had to take into consideration, of course, the existing layers of architecture. This monument was built during 2,000 years by the greatest builders of Jerusalem. And once starting to plan the contemporary intervention, just from the start, I think, it was quite obvious to us that we cannot raise above the ground level. So the whole project, the whole volume of the new architecture had to be, it was kind of, we are discovering it, we're not inventing it. It was kind of obvious to us that it had to be dug down into the earth. And creating sort of a fold in the ground, creating an interesting and contemporary landscaping, which is not competing with the existing walls and architecture.
Yotam, digging down between the Citadel, the iconic symbol of Jerusalem, and the ancient walls of the city built by Solomon. Easy.
Yeah.
Yotam, tell me, we've just this week started to drill. What between when we first started with a tractor there and the excavations and right now, what have you discovered that's made you think, you know, what are we going to do next? Or have there been any challenges, or have there been any surprises? If you could just give us a quick little look into what you've been thinking about these last few weeks.
Yeah, hi. So thank you first for inviting us. We're very happy to be here. I would start with telling you the story about how this pavilion started. We received the program, and we understood, as I said in this film, that it had to be dug down the earth, because it couldn't be seen from the street, from outside the Citadel area. It was quite a naive concept and very clear one. And once we started actually solving all the difficulties, I remember I think I've never told this before, but we were sitting, Eitan and I, in this office. We're trying to solve a very simple question of how can we make people escape from these underground spaces in case of a fire, emergency, or any other one. So we're trying to look for holes and ways and other staircases and stuff. And then we were looking at each other and said, okay, why not dig a whole shaft? Like I will just show you the picture. What? Tell me if you can see my screen.
We can see your screen. Ah, yes, we can. Perfect.
Yeah. So we said, why not dig this shaft and actually allow people to escape? And then we understood actually that the most of the time, and hopefully never, people will have to escape this building, but they will actually get to see the real foundation of the wall, which was covered, as we said before, in the times where moats were unnecessary. And we started this scheme, and the whole circulation of people going through the building, climbing down inside, and actually discovering this magnificent hall that is overlooking the real foundation, the historical foundation that no one's seen before. And actually, we're quite disappointed around 2 years ago when we started the testing excavation to find out that the Ottomans were quite, I would say, efficient in the way they were using the stones. And they didn't waste a piece of good stones for something which was actually buried. And they built the moat in a way that it wasn't adjacent to the wall. So actually, there was a kind of a pile of or a slope of earth, and the actual walls are just sitting on soil. So the dream of having this wall, like I would say the Wailing Wall or something like that, went away. But we kept on with the dream, and we see here that we were also using footages from the early 20th century of the great British archaeologists that dug here to understand where we are future to find some remains and where we are not. And actually, keeping on with this story, so this is the area before we started, and this is the situation a few months ago. And actually, as you said, this was a thrilling day. This is just from this afternoon. I think this is the fourth of the fifth, or the fifth out of 70 concrete piles that will be dug here to support this huge wall. This is actually the most famous view of Jerusalem looking from the west. So we also have here the detectors to understand if there are any movements, to make sure no stone will be hurt and no crackings and no fallings, not to say. And actually, we are now drilling around 15 meters down the earth, and we had to keep changing the engineering. Once we start digging, we found a different figures about the stability of the soil. So we had to gather around the planning table and with the engineers and all the experts, and we keep changing it. And we just found an interesting part and remains in the other part of Gan David. And we are now actually, while starting to dig the ground, we are changing some of the plans to match the findings. That it will keep on going for the next year, I believe. But in 2 months, we're going to have this huge space for 1,000 meters underground.
That's so exciting. So Yotam is also the architect behind the scenes for the education department, the new education center that we have. So we've seen that there's the new visitor entrance pavilion, and there'll be the new visitor flow. And this has actually sparked the interest of the municipal and national planners, who will have taken on the project to revitalize the whole of the Jaffa Plaza, together with the neglected Byzantine era excavations that are found that aren't on view for the general public. And this is the second stage of our renewal project. And it's not only going to create an archaeological park, but also the education center and an auditorium, and it will link the museum through underground walkways to the nearby Teddy Park and the Mamilla Shopping Boulevard, and of course also to the parking lots. And I want to show you what that is going to look like. Just 1 second, we'll see Yotam now appearing. One moment.
We're standing underneath the main road that connects the city center of Jerusalem with the southern neighborhoods. This road was built around 20 years ago. It was hanged on pillars just above this magnificent space, a space which is full of rich archaeological and historical stories, aging from the Roman era to the Byzantine era. Just at the back, we have the Byzantine bathhouse, which has a very, very impressive remaining walls. Just at the bottom, going very deep down under the road, there are remains of a Byzantine commercial street, a street that used to be one of the entrances to the Roman city. These large pillars which supports the road above us actually created a huge space that we can use, such as education wing for the museum, a big auditorium which will have a beautiful view of the old city of Jerusalem. So this gap actually between the road and the old walls, which was neglected, it is a part of the national park which surrounds the old city. And this project will actually revive this space as a very welcoming public space, public open space. Visitors will be able to enter the old city through this new complex. On the bigger scale, one of the main goals of this project is to connect the entrance of Yafo Gate with Teddy Park, which is just to the west-south of the old city, and actually enabling a new accessible way for tourists which will come through the park, through the excavated Byzantine street, the Byzantine bath, the new hall of Tower of David, and then up through a new elevator to Jaffa Gate and to the old city. There is no other project like this, I think. It's a once of a lifetime opportunity for an architect to be involved in such an environment. It has an enormous potential of actually changing the city. This project requires a lot of creativity, but I think that above all, a lot of sensitivity. And of course that I feel overwhelmed every time I'm here, and it's a big opportunity for me to be part of this team, and which hopefully will have this impact of the new entrance to the old city.
Yotam, there's so many things that we would want to ask you about that, and hopefully we'll have a little bit of time when we get back, when we get to the end for questions more about the new education center. But at the beginning of today, I talked about the fact that tonight is all about balance, and in fact, the project of the renewal and conservation project of the Tower of David is all about balance, building for the future and conserving and preserving the past. So let me introduce you to Yotam Carmel, who is our Director of Conservation for this project from the company Hator. Yotam, are you with us?
Hi, good evening.
Yotam, first of all, just tell us, how did you get to be a conservationist?
Thank you for inviting me, first of all. So I think it actually began since I was a young boy. I grew up in a village in the north of the country, right in the footsteps of Tel Tzfat, or ancient Tzfat, which was an important Jewish village from the Second Temple period. This is where Josephus Flavius surrendered to the Romans. And since I was a very young boy, in the beginning, I used to just walk around and look for treasures, arrowheads and coins and jewelry. And I started to become very interested in the structures and really try to understand the stones and the masonry and the materials and how things were actually built and what they looked like. And it connected to another passion I had, which was traditional crafts. At a very young age, I discovered conservation. So I've been working in this field since then. It was just a connection between archaeological and historical sites and traditional crafts. So it's perfect for me. Yeah.
We can see that you're handy with all the background. That's a real background as opposed to a virtual background of tools. Yotam, the heading up the conservation at the Tower of David. And I've got some film that I'm going to play, and it would be amazing if you could walk us through a little bit, tell us what we're looking at, and that way we'll learn more about the challenges that you've got in making sure that our citadel will remain beautiful for generations to come. So I'm just going to share that. Before I start, and before you start, Yotam, perhaps I'll just explain, obviously the Citadel has got many guard rooms. The guard rooms were and will be where the permanent exhibition of the history of Jerusalem is going to be. And we are going right now to see what state of affairs is. So Yotam, what are we looking at?
So we're inside gallery number 4. Yeah, and what we can actually see is a lot of the infrastructure, which has to find its way from the floors all the way up to the walls and the ceilings, which is quite a big challenge. Like you said before, and Eitan mentioned, this is all supervised by the Antiquity Authority, and we cannot harm any of the stones. So the only passage we have through is going through the joints inside the stone, which in a way is a certain, you can see over here, the opening of the channeling of the joints to prepare this infrastructure, which is also a chance for us to repair the joints and introduce the correct materials, lime-based materials. And over here in gallery number 5, we can see the leveling up of the floor, which is also a base for all the infrastructures to go underneath. So this is actually the galleries during preparation. Yeah, ongoing work.
Yotam, why have we got all these blocks? And presumably part of the reason is that we can't drill down into the floors and just raise the level of the floor just because we want to.
Yeah, so this is actually doing two things at the same time. One is allowing the accessibility through the structure. On the other hand, really having a passageway for all the infrastructures, which Eitan mentioned before. And this is something which really has to find its way through the whole structure, going up through the different levels and all the way through the different galleries. And like I mentioned, it's a good chance for us to really have a good overview of the condition of the Citadel, because once we have scaffoldings up, so we can really have our face right up against the wall and really see the real condition. Like you can see over here in this domed ceiling, we can actually see cracks appearing through the masonry, which is giving us a better understanding of how the building is working and really what schedule of works we should get prepared to treat this. Here, right over here, you can see this. Yeah. So
and you've talked about, Yotam, the fact that you are using traditional materials. In the 80s, I understand it was cement that was used. Could you tell us a little bit more about the techniques that you're using today that will help preserve the Citadel?
Yeah, so this Citadel was repaired during the 80s. Using a lot of the conventional materials like cement-based mortars. The theme today in the conservation is going back to using traditional materials, traditional being like lime-based mortars, this is the glue who held the buildings together. So it's just really going back and getting the understanding of the original materials and the mixing methods and the proper way to apply these materials. And this is the common use today in conservation. So what we're working over here is really going back to these traditional working materials and methods, like filling up the cracks like we can see over here, injecting lime-based mortars to resound the building. So yeah, this is our aim. What we can see over here is the works being done on the Patzael Tower, which is from King Herod's period. So what happened over here, we had quite a lot of structural cracks, which were going through a large section of the building. And these are being treated with different methods. I mean, part of them will be reinforcing with stainless steel rods and reconnecting some of the cracked stones, injecting lime-based mortars, and some of them are just treating the condition of the stone. I mean, having geological problems in the stone. And so when these massive stones, some of them weighing over 10 tons, so a chip coming off can be 300 kilos sometimes. So it really just connecting these chips back together and anchoring and keeping everything together. This all has to be done while monitoring the movement of the building. So we make sure nothing is moving and everything is sound while we're injecting or working for the safety of the workers and the building itself.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, we've now heard about the building for the future. We've heard about the conserving of the past. Eilat, how is it all going to come together in spring of next year?
So there's still a lot of work to do, but as you could see, we have an amazing team. And the Citadel used to be the symbol of power of Jerusalem, the symbol of rulership, and now it's a symbol of culture. So the location is perfect, and we are building a new and modern and update museum for the future. So we hope you enjoy this discussion, and I want to invite you all to our launch of the new museum next spring. And I would like to thank our team. Thank you, Carolyn Shapiro-Weiss and Rose Genosar. And thank you, Eitan Kimmel and Yotam Cohen-Sagi from Kimmel-Eshkolot. And thank you, Yotam Carmel. And I hope to see you soon in Jerusalem. And I can promise we will do the best for this amazing Citadel of Jerusalem, Tower of David.
Thank you, Eilat. Well, we've stopped here because we wanted to give a few moments for anyone who had questions. Please do ask a question if you have got a question. I think you're able to unmute. And does anyone have a question right now? Because if not, I have a question. So I've been seeing the different rooms being worked on. And one of the big questions in the rooms is how to deal with the acoustic issues. These rooms were built a long time ago, hundreds of years ago. And I know that they're working on solutions right now. So Yotam, if this is new right now. Yotam, just very quickly tell us, you've got 2 minutes to quickly tell us what the situation is now.
Okay. So as
the problem and the solution.
So yeah, of course we are dealing with very, very big spaces, high ceilings, and the acoustics are horrible for a museum. The solution in the 80s was actually a rug with an underfloor acoustic absorbent. And today, while using the concrete, we are moving to the ceiling actually, because the walls are remaining exposed as stone. And we are just finished actually, sorry, it's not this one. We just finished testing two materials. The first one is a very common one for modern buildings. It's a dry material that was actually designed on site to match the vaults and the geometry, while being okay in its efficiency. It is not suitable for this site. And we are now actually, alongside with Yotam's amazing team of mortar appliers and everything, they took off all the cement layers and all the things that they put in the 80s, and they applied a very special new acoustic material, which is also based on natural limestone. It comes from Italy, and just today we saw it almost finished before the last layer of paint. And next week we're going to make the acoustical experiment to see if it matches the modeling in the computer, and then we're going to apply it all around the museum. So it's actually very fascinating.
Yeah. Well, thank you for my update. I knew it was happening, and I thank you for filling me in. We have a question here from Malta. She wants to know when the project will be completed, and will we open by section or one at a time?
So we hope to be open one at a time. Of course, we hope the world will recover till spring 22, and we hope to see all of you and of course the tourists back in Jerusalem. Right now, this is our plan.
And I saw somebody, Nikki, you have a question? I saw Nikki raise her hand.
Yes, I do. Why is it called Tower of David when it has nothing to do with David?
It's a very good question, actually, and it's symbolic. Of course, we know today from modern archaeology that King David used to live where the city of David today, southern than the Wailing Wall, where the Silwan village. But during the Second Temple period, we know about the Herodian Royal Tower right in the place of the Tower of David today. And the historian Josephus Flavius wrote that people used to call the towers of the palace David's Citadel because it's so impressive and strong. So it's symbolic, actually. And pilgrims during the Byzantine period and later used to call this area Tower of David. So this is the story.
Well, this brings us, is there any more questions? Just very quickly, we've got time for one question if someone has. Are we good? Oh, hang on. How has the coronavirus affected the work being done? That is a great question from Izzy Friedman. How has the coronavirus affected the work being done? Eilat. You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Actually, we planned a totally different project. And when we realized that this crisis is very deep and long, we decided to accelerate the whole project and to cut the timeline. And it was really sad because most of our workers are still at home on Farley, but on the other hand, it was a great opportunity for the project because we could open the whole spaces and, as I said, accelerate the whole schedule.
Eilat, one more question before we go. Someone has asked about funding. How is this project being funded?
Okay, a good question. This current project of the Citadel and the museum supported by the Clore Israel Foundation. It's about $20 million project without the planning stage. The new entrance pavilion supported by the municipality of Jerusalem and the government of Israel through the Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of Jerusalem Affairs. The second stage of the project, which is the new educational center right under the Jaffa Gate Square and the road, is still in fundraising right now, but I can say, and very happy to say, that 50% of the upcoming project, the second stage, is already supported by the municipality of Jerusalem.
Thank you. So it's time to go. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I just want to give a little plug for our last conversation in this series, before, which is going to happen before Passover, Easter. On Wednesday, March the 17th, so 2 weeks from today, our conversation will be centered around reimagining museums, renewal of museums for the 21st century. And Eilat will be joined by the director of the Museum of New York City, as well as the director of the Museum of London. So they'll be telling the stories that make up their museums, that offer the histories of three unique, influential cosmopolitan cities. For those of you that don't know, the Museum of London, that is currently located close to the Barbican Centre, is actually moving to and renewing and renovating the old market buildings of Smithfield. And the Museum of New York City also completed a renovation and modernization project not so long ago. So we look forward to seeing you again, and thank you so much for coming this evening.